uncertainty. And this is the name of the game. It's not the game, but this is the name of the whole situation. It means you never know what will happen to you in the next second. You are being held by a very cruel enemy, and you don't know what will be in the next second, if you will be alive or not. And the uncertainty of the families is the same. They don't know if the most evil thing will occur to their dear in the next second or minute, and they don't know when he will come back, and if he will come back, alive or dead. So the uncertainty is the world that symbolizes my work, my life, and that symbolizes the whole situation. Uncertainty. And that Molière, the French poet, said that the uncertainty is the worst evil, even the worst certainty on life.
From New York City, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, and this is the One Way Ticket Show. Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the show where we explore with our guests where they'd go if given a one-way ticket, no coming back. Their destinations may be in the past, present, future, real, imaginary, even a state of mind. But once again, the only caveat, there's no coming back. Now, you can listen to all episodes on our website, theonewayticketshow.com, or you can search for The One Way Ticket Show wherever you like to download your podcast. And while you're at it, do rate and review us because that makes it easier for more people around the world to find us. And if I haven't bombarded you yet with enough information, one more point of housekeeping, do follow me also on all social media at Stephen Shalowitz, and also follow the show as well. Just search for The One Way Ticket Show. We're kicking off 2026 by welcoming back Ory Slonim to the program. Now, Ory is one of Israel's most distinguished lawyers, and this year, 2026, he's marking 40 years since Israeli President Chaim Herzog tasked him with the role as consultant to the Minister of Defense for captives and MIAs. It's a position he referred to as the knocker on doors. And in fact, Ory's book about his work is titled A Knock at the Door. It's available wherever you like to buy your books. Indeed, he was our guest on episode 293 back on September 26, 2023. So do check out that episode. And with that, we very warmly welcome Ory Slonim back, who joins us now on the line via Zoom from his home in Emek Hefer, Israel. Ory, it's so wonderful to have you back. Thanks so much once again for joining us here on the One Way Ticket Show.
Thank you. Me too.
All right. And congratulations on your anniversary, indeed, 40 years ago. And so I just want you to share with us first how you really came to be the knocker on the door, and really what did that mean?
It was one of the events that occurred to you by chance. It was in 1986 when our late president, Chaim Herzog, the father of our president, approached me. We knew each other from our law practice. He was a lawyer at that time, before he became president. And he asked me if I would like to volunteer for 1 year, only 1 year, to stand next to the families of MIAs and POWs of Israel and try to assist them in their very complicated situation. And he said, if you would like to come only for 1 year, it will be okay. It's a volunteering role. And at that time, I was at the beginning of my legal practice. And, just the beginning, the only thing you think is being in your business. So I said, if it is only 1 year, I'll take it. It's so important. And then I came to 1 year and remained, as you said, 40 years in this volunteer. And after that, the process was that I became a special consultant to Israel defense ministers and one prime minister, 7 defense ministers, Yitzhak Rabin, Moshe Arens, Ehud Barak, and many others. And this year, I'm completing my 40 years of this so special role that I think I'm lucky that I got it.
Indeed. And I remember you were telling me last time, Ory, that your salary was 1 shekel a year.
My salary on paper was 1 shekel annually, but I can confess, I didn't get it. They owe me 40 shekels.
And as I told you last time, the current president, Herzog of Israel. So I'm sure he's good for it.
Let's drop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I ever meet him, Ori, I'll certainly ask on your
All right.
behalf. All right.
Yes, remind him. Yes.
Right. I'll remind him. And of course, you're not doing it.
He knows me
But
very well. Yes. He knows.
yes. And I say that, of course, in jest because I know that it was really a very important assignment that you had. And when you became a knocker on the door, that really meant that you were the first point of contact for Israel when it came to trying to release these POWs and the MIAs. And so I would imagine that you really came across some really, as we say, nefarious type characters. How did you generally arrange the meetings, Ori, and how did you really prepare for them?
It's not a standard system. Depends on the personality, depends on his background, depends on many, many other aspects. But mainly when I met hundreds or even more terrorists and ugly creatures, sometimes the ugliest on earth. But when I met them or when I talked to them, the whole thing was concentrated on trying to reach my goal. And I always treated them as human beings, of course. Sometimes we chatted personally on our personal life. Sometimes half of the discussion was about personal things, wife, children, and whatever. And the aim was at the end of the day to create some mode of reaching to each other hearts, not only brain and head, not only rational, but at a certain stage, a bit emotional. For example, most of the people that I met, I always mention that I'm coming from a family that is many, many generations in Israel or Palestine at that time, that my family came from Hebron. And I'm a Palestinian. And the fact that I not look like is that my mother came from Germany. But my father was very, very dark and looked like every Palestinian in here. So we did it very naturally.
Yeah. And we should share with our audience that you were born in pre-state Israel, which was known as the Palestinian Mandate, the British Mandate of Palestine. So that's why you would say that you technically are a Palestinian and more so than these people that claim to be. So you treated these people, these terrorists that you had to deal with as human beings. Did they reciprocate? Did they treat you in the same way, Ori?
I believe that on top that the basic suspect of you are coming from my enemy side and all that things. But at the end of the day, we are human beings and we're talking from time to time about our human problems, about our personal life. Sometimes I assisted my counterparts, by helping them with doctors, with with things. There's nothing to do with the issue. Like not two friends, but two human beings.
Yeah. And I want to pivot then to more contemporary time. And I told you before we started rolling, you were actually the last guest I had here on the program before the October 7th terrorist attack, when Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, 2023. So I'd like to go there now with you. And I'm wondering, where were you? Where was your family on October 7th when that attack happened by Hamas? And when you heard the news that there were 251 hostages taken, what went through your head, especially given the work that you had been doing all those years?
That day, at morning time, it was something like 6:30 in the morning. We all opened our TVs and we saw at the beginning, we saw Palestinians and Hamas people from Gaza running to our southern border. We knew nothing about the circumstances. We knew nothing about what is happening there. And only after a couple of hours, we heard about the big disaster, that it was a great murder operation, a great raping operation, and the people of Hamas coming into our country. For us, it was a great shock. And at the beginning of this day, very early in the morning, I had a discussion with a friend of mine from our paratrooper service in the army. He lived in Be'eri, in the kibbutz in the south of Israel. And he described me at 7:30 in the morning. He is hearing terrorists coming to his house in Kibbutz Be'eri. And at the end of the day, he was, after, I believe, 3 hours of chatting here and there, like ping pong, he was murdered. And his wife was injured, very severe injured. And then I felt that we are coming into something that we never had. And at that time, I didn't think about what I'm going to be in the whole thing after that day, because in the morning, we still didn't hear about the hostages. We knew that it is, very roughly way, but only the day after, all of us discovered, and I was discovered also in person, that 250 something like that, human beings, old people, men, women, and babies, and pregnant women, whatever you can imagine, were hostages of the Hamas and being taken to Gaza, in very, very cruel way. And only the day after, I was approached to enter into the saga of dealing with hostages and families, not on behalf of the government this time, not on behalf of the country, but in a very private citizens of Israel initiative that they started the day after, and they created the headquarters of the hostages, of the families, without the government interfering or involvement. And it became the headquarters of the hostages, and stayed for 2 years. All the funds were raised privately from human beings, and I was part of it. This time, not as a part of the government, but part of this initiative.
Yeah, it was part of civil society, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unprecedented.
So together with your very supportive and accomplished attorney wife, Tammy, you, as you said, you were very actively involved with the hostage families. Can you talk about what they were going through? And can you invoke Moliere's quote that you've shared with me before? Because I think both really come together.
In the past, I dealt mostly with people who were POWs or MIAs by being soldiers or being part of the army. This was the first time that it occurred to citizens, to simple citizens, to men and women, to babies of 3 to 6 months old, to all people of above 80 and 85, for pregnant ladies. It was something which is unprecedented, nothing to do with what I've done in the past. So the whole thing is something which has another way of attitude, another way of dealing with. It was something, the most cruel human being situation that I've ever practiced. And there are no rules to what I'm doing. There are no regulations. But to such a situation, I didn't dream. Nobody dreamed about such a situation. And the problems are much more problems than it happens to a soldier, to one who is part of the army.
And then share Moliere's quote, if you would, because again, I think that really typifies what the families were going through.
My definition of this situation, and my definition also of why in the Judaism, being a prisoner of war is the number one mitzvah. And the most important mitzvah, the most important order of the Judaism. And I asked many rabbis in Israel and out of Israel, and they said this because it is the most uncertainty you have in life. Uncertainty. And this is the name of the game. It's not the game, but this is the name of the whole situation. It means you never know what will happen to you in the next second. You are being held by a very cruel enemy, and you don't know what will be in the next second, if you will be alive or not. And the uncertainty of the families is the same. They don't know if the most evil thing will occur to their dear in the next second or minute, and they don't know when he will come back, and if he will come back, alive or dead. So the uncertainty is the world that symbolizes my work, my life, and that symbolizes the whole situation. Uncertainty. Molière quotes it now became very soft. And then Molière, the French poet, said that the uncertainty is the worst evil, even the worst certainty in life. If you have a bad news that you are ill or something happened to you, you're being you got the cancer. There are doctors, there are medicines, there are hopes, there are better doctors abroad. You have some hope. But when you are being caught as a hostage in such a situation, no hope, nothing, just dreaming of that things will be okay, but you don't know. And most of the hostages that came back, they talked about it, about the situation that you don't know for the next second, not the second minute, if you will be alive or dead, if you will be injured or be raped, whatever.
And then what did you hear from the hostages on how they were able to endure, get through the starvation, the torture, the abuse that they were subjected to? And what are the lessons, Uri, that we can take from them?
First of all, I never heard things from those who came back. At the beginning, they came back to hospitals in Israel, and the government and the army created a very, very sophisticated system of doctors, of people who are dealing with the mental situation.
And trauma.
Trauma, everything. And everyone who came back was covered by a bunch of people who treated him. Sometimes are being treated until today, even 2 years after. And they took care, even sometimes before the family meets them. Sometimes the family hugging them the first time, and then they go back home and they're starting some plan. And some of them are not getting out of this situation even after 2 years. Some of them won't get out for the whole of their life. In person, I'm not talking with these people the way I'm curious. I'm curious, but I'll never be curious to know what happened to them. I know that they practice hell. I know that they were injured. I know that it's very difficult to me to say many were raped. Many were sexual harassment every day. And, we don't want to talk about these things, but it was hell. But I think that most of those who came alive, I believe they are being treated in the best and the most modern system on earth. And the families, some of the families didn't have their dears. Some of them brought back were dead, and they were covered by the Israeli flag. And then the whole thing is awful, but it's different. And some of them were murdered after a couple of months or even 2 years, 1.5 years, they were in Gaza. And, there were hopes. And then at one date, there were murders. Some of them, they were killed by our fire, which naturally was part of the war. So I think it's one of the worldwide disaster that the world, I believe, never experienced in such a scale. Never.
Yeah, the healing process must be just so deep and so long when you go through something like that. And I had the good fortune of speaking with Tal Shoam, who was one of the hostages, 404 days, I believe it was, that he was hostage.
So we heard it.
You heard it, and in the tunnels. And I just think to myself, every single day, just as you say, the uncertainty of what's going to happen. Are you even going to get food? Are you going to be tortured? Are you going to be abused? Or are you going to be set free? It's something that we just can't fathom for those of us that, thank God, are free. And I think, for me at least, their experiences put my life into perspective in terms of saying what's important and what's not important.
Same with everybody.
Yeah. And I think that's really the lesson that we can take from the hostages. And I think also to honor them, I think we have to continue with celebrating life so that the terrorists don't win. And just on a very personal note, is right after the terrorist attack happened, October 7th, 2023, I was scheduled to go on a very long awaited trip to Antarctica, South Georgia, and the Falkland Islands at the end of October. So we're talking about just maybe about 3 weeks after. And several days after the shock of it all, it was still shocking. Frankly, it still is shocking to me what happened on October 7th. I thought to myself, I don't know if I can go on this trip. I was so upset. It was so visceral for me. And I was weighing whether I should go or not, because how could I enjoy myself and have this experience when I know 251 of my brothers and sisters are held in the hellhole of Gaza in those tunnels. And I thought, I don't know if I can do that. And then one morning I woke up, Ory, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to go, because if I don't go, that means the terrorists won. It means the terrorists have terrorized me, and I don't want them to terrorize me, and I don't want to be a victim. So I'm going to go. Believe me, the whole experience, the whole trip was very much dampened because of October 7th. However,
you did the right thing.
But I went because I did not want to be victimized. And so I just wanted to share that. And so I think the best thing that all of us could do is to celebrate life, because I think at the end of the day, that's what Israel really is all about. It's about celebrating life. And if you have any comments about that.
Yes, it's it's a celebrating life, but never forget those lives. Their lives are in risk. This is one of the reasons that another part of my life, I dealt with the disadvantaged kids that became disadvantaged from childhood or from birth. So they had a problem, since they were brought to our world, not after they lived for 30 years. So for this reason, I am dealing with all these things, and I believe that what we had in October 7, no nation, no society in the world had experienced ever.
Right. And this would be a good time to share with our listeners that might not have heard our initial conversation that actually your one-way ticket, because after all, that's the name of the show and the theme of the show, your one-way ticket destination from last time was to a future in a place where all soldiers, POWs, and MIAs will be back home, and where children in need will be okay. So quite a tall order. And I think it's something we might not have realized it, certainly, but it's definitely something that we can all work towards, because at the end of the day, the world isn't perfect, and it's about repairing an imperfect world. And I'm sure you wouldn't indeed disagree with that. And of course, you did all of your work for so many years with the organization called Variety International. I want to ask you something that was actually in the book. Once again, a knock at the door. I recommend that everybody in earshot and viewing shot actually picks up a copy of the book, because it's not only a story of your life and the work that you did, but it's really the story of the state of Israel. Your grandfather taught you many life lessons. He was a true Renaissance man, as you pointed out in the book, and as you've told me separately. But one of the stories that he shared with you and that you point out in the book was of the prize fighter and the boy with the broken bottle. And I want you to highlight that story for our wonderful audience, Ory, because I think it's very telling in terms of our time today and how to interpret what's going on in the world today.
It was a story that I told you. It's not a story, it's real life. I was raised by my grandfather, by my parents, but I lived mostly with my grandfather. He was a very wise man. He came from Hebron. He was a real Hebron type. And when he wanted as a grandfather to his grandchild to describe to him in what surrounding, in what part of the world he's living, he asked me a question regarding that situation. And he said, for example, if the worldwide champion of boxing is coming to the arena, and the one who is coming in front of him will be a boy of 12 or 13 with a broken bottle, and they start to fight. He asked me, who will win this battle? And I said, the world champion. I was a kid, the world champion. He said, no, the world champion will fight according to the laws. No boxing below the belt and things like that. But the boy, he will take the bottle. He will start the world champion below his belt, and he will win. Because these are the laws of, I believe, the laws of our neighborhood. And at that time, I don't think I understood that this would be part of my life, that I'm going to live in this part of the world with my mission. But at the end of the day, we are living in a boxing arena without rules, no rules. And those who are working according to the rules, at the end of the day, sometimes they're losing.
And that's the neighborhood that you find yourself in. And how do you think the rest of the world understands that? I personally think the rest of the world does not understand the kind of neighborhood you're living in, particularly those liberal Western democracies that want to, and this of course is me editorializing, Ory, so you can agree or disagree, but it seems to me that they put their own values on what's happening in the Middle East and try and understand it through their own lens without understanding what the reality is.
I can be very short and sharp and tell you that nobody in the world who is not living in this part of the world cannot understand it or accept it. And in this part of the world, I believe, and unfortunately, these are the name of the game. These are the rules. And this is the reason that Israel, as the only democracy in this part of the world, is priority. How do you call it?
Front line. We call it the front
Yeah.
line.
So I prefer to be in a democratic society, even in this part of the world, on top of living like our neighbors are living. And I'm not talking about all our neighbors. I'm talking about the terror organizations. I'm not talking about Arabs and Palestinians who are not terrorists. They are part of the area, and not all of them are terrorists. So I'm talking only about those who decided that their life will be operated by terrorism and vandalism and all these things, ugly things that we are facing.
This would probably be a good time for me to ask you then, Ory, what do you then make of the rise in anti-Zionism and Jew hatred and the demonization of Israel and the demonization of Jews that we're experiencing right now worldwide? And I see it here in New York City very closely.
I think that it is not local and something which is having to be part of this time of our life. I think it's a long system, and at that time of our life, because of the war, because they see sometimes houses are being destroyed in Gaza or things like that, and I think that they don't see everything, and in order to understand us, one has to come here, has to live with us, like you are doing from time to time. And I'm very sorry for the movement that is rising nowadays in the world. And it's not a new phenomenon.
That's a very succinct answer.
Yeah,
Spoken like a true lawyer, actually.
I am.
I know you are. You're a very accomplished lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's why you were tapped 40 years ago to do what the president at the time asked you to do. You told me in our last conversation how important it is to give. And what does giving do for the giver? And what should our listeners know about giving?
Another part of my life is Variety International, which is a children's charity that was founded in the U.S. in 1928 in Pittsburgh. And it's a big charity. And 35 years ago, I became the president of this charity in Israel. And in 2001, I became the only Israeli who was president of Variety worldwide. And this is a big charity taking care of millions of kids, disadvantaged kids.
Worldwide, we should say.
Worldwide. And I was privileged to head it as the only Israeli. And I think that giving is the best present one can have, because the privilege that you have, if you can, and if you do it, and if you can afford, but most if you want to do it, that you enjoy the giving more than the one who is receiving. And, one of my friends told me once when I asked him, why you are allotting so much of your time to give and to help others and to help the weak people and the children? And he say, I'm just an egoist.
And explain.
Yeah. Yes, it do great for yourself. It does good things. And I believe that everyone should prefer to be on the side of giving than on the side of needing the help.
Yeah, it makes you feel good to give. And also, because you're a native Hebrew speaker, explain what the word to give means in Hebrew backwards and forwards.
Yes, I think that giving is the best present, the best privilege that God gave me and gave those people in variety in other charities. And we are privileged to give. And I think that at all times, the world should have more givers than those who need it.
Yeah. And the word, though, in Hebrew is what?
Latet.
But if you say notain,
Noten the same from both
Yeah.
sides.
yeah. So
Yes.
it's there. So we should share
Okay.
with our non-Hebrew listeners there, Ory. That's where I was
Yes.
going with that.
Yes. Noten is the giver, and it's a game, but at the end of the day, it's what you feel.
Yeah.
And what
Because the letters backwards and forwards are the same. So when you give, you get. That's where I was going with
but you get more. But you get more.
You do. Indeed, you do. And you've given so much through your life for sure. And so as we begin to wind down our conversation, I wanted to ask you, as you reflect on your work with the POWs, the MIAs, and even the hostages, right? Is there an experience or a negotiation, for example, Uri, that you're involved with that comes to mind that gives you either the greatest satisfaction or in your very quiet, private time, you think about or that pops into your head?
I think I cannot pinpoint on one occasion or one human being that I dealt with. I think that every moment that you're dealing with this situation, every moment that you can put a smile on a mother or father of a POW or hostage, is the whole world. So I don't think I need the big occasions to be happy. From time to time, I'm happy for very tiny things. And at the end of the day, I cannot find even one moment that it was, a moment that I'll never forget. I don't forget all moments.
And how has this work throughout the years changed you personally?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope my family and my friends feel more than me, but I feel that my life is better life when I do it. My life is better life, and I think that the one who is having his life, for 80, for 90, or sometimes even shorter, without giving, his life are worthless.
Yeah, it's
He's
meaningless.
not living.
Yeah,
He's not.
exactly. I totally agree. So now as we really wind down our conversation, so you know Israel intimately. So for anyone that has not been to Israel or someone that's been to Israel multiple times, where would you tell them they have to go and visit? Are there a few places that you say, my favorite place is X, or my favorite experience is Y, or you have to try XYZ food in Israel?
First of all, I think that coming to such an ancient country and feeling from time to time that you are crossing lines of Bible words and Bible chapters. And this is, for some of my friends, this is the meaning. For myself, the meaning is our country, our green fields, our sunny, mostly of the year, sunny days, and mostly my friends. My friends who are living next to me and my family. And we are living here for the last approximately 200 years. So we faced and experienced everything. And I think that for a Jew, Israel is the place.
All right. And on that note, we are going to leave it right there. Once again, the book is A knock at the door. A knock at the door. You can pick up a copy wherever you like to buy your books. Ory Slonim, congratulations on your 40th anniversary. I think you must have started when you were 5 years old.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Something like that. Anyway, congrats on your 40th anniversary. Look forward to having you back for a third time here on the One Way Ticket Show. And indeed, I look forward to seeing you in person somewhere in the world before too long, both you and Tammy.
I hope only in good circumstances.
And once again, we invite you to follow the show and me on all social media. Search for the One Way Ticket Show. And for me, Stephen Shalowitz. And of course, we'll have info about Ory on the show notes page of our website, theonewayticketshow.com. And of course, on our YouTube channel. And once you're there, make sure you subscribe by ringing the bell so you never miss an episode. And of course, follow the show and me on all social media. Search for the One Way Ticket Show. Also search for yours truly, Stephen Shalowitz. And if you'd like to shoot me an email, do write to me at Stephen@theonewayticketshow.com. That's Stephen with a B. Stephen@theonewayticketshow.com. Share your one-way ticket destination, and let's even arrange a call and chat because I'm always up for a great conversation. Meantime, it's a wrap for this edition of the One Way Ticket Show. For Ory Slonim and the entire crew, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, and we'll see you next time.